Hey, this is Anney.
And Samantha.
And welcome to Stuff Mom Never Told You, a production of iHeartRadio. And it is time for another happy hour. Despite the name, I think this one's going to be mostly a happy hour. Or at least like a not unhappy hour. Even though we are going to talk about grief. But not much.
Is it an okay hour then?
Yeah, it's okay. I think it's going to be like the kind of enjoyable ranting hour, but who knows? Okay. I don't know. If you like this kind of thing, I think you'll be into it. But if you don't, then maybe not. So as always with these segments, drink responsibly. And what are you sipping on, Samantha?
You know how we talked about trying to switch up our drinks every now and again, but we still have our faves? Yeah, I'm drinking a fave. So I'm drinking my Vino Verde from Trader Joe's. Not a sponsor, unless they want to give me a case of this wine, because I really like it. But yeah, I'm just sticking with that today.
It sounds nice. Sounds refreshing.
It is light and refreshing and appley.
It is? Okay. Well, I kind of had a similar issue again. So last time I made like a gin and tonic with beer. This time I made like a gin wine slushy tonic thing.
Interesting.
Yeah, because my friend, I believe I've told this story before, but I have a friend who, Katie, who was on our episode about women with red hair. She loves snacks and I don't like snacks. So, and she loves desserts and I don't really eat dessert. So every time she comes over, she has started to bring desserts and snacks and things that she'll like, and she'll leave them here. But that's part of the problem is I don't like having that stuff around. But she did leave this whole like case of these wine slushies.
Oh, yeah.
And she's become increasingly frustrated with me that I won't drink them, but I also won't throw them away. But I'm like, maybe you'll want them one day. And she flat out told me I'm never going to drink those because it's become a point of pride now. And so I'm trying to be stubborn and drink them slowly. So take that, Katie.
I love it.
Yes. So today we are going to talk about a trope I've mentioned before. The sad murdered dad trope. And I know this sounds kind of dark, but the timing of this is the anniversary of my dad's death. And, you know, I was thinking, I feel like in the years since he's died, that I still have occasions where I just get so sad. And one of the things I do on the anniversary of his death is I watch Star Wars, which of course, we love Star Wars together. We watch Star Wars together. I can't hear Obi-Wan without hearing him. And the sad murder dad trope is, I first heard of it about Darth Vader. So he's the original sad murder dad in my book. And I did get, Samantha knows, I did find this letter he wrote me. I have not opened it yet. I still haven't opened it. I can't do it. I'm going to. But it just feels like it's going to be such a big before and after. Like, once I open that letter, I think it's going to change something. It could possibly be like legal documents and I really need them. I was cleaning out my apartment and I just came across this letter that when he gave it to me, he left it on my bed. And when I found it, I was so angry. I just was like, I would never open this. And now I'm kind of sad because who knows what's in there. Maybe it would have been important and changed our relationship. But too bad. I will never know. I will open it. I will. But not today. Not for a minute. Even though I said I was going to do it on Father's Day and I never did. And I said I was going to do it the next weekend and I never did. I've like picked it up and held it and almost opened it several times. And then like, no, I can't.
You take your time.
Okay, thank you. It does feel like it's going to be a big, I don't know. It feels like it's going to be life-changing, or at least potentially like temporarily life-changing.
Right. It's definitely, no matter what, it's your dad's words to you who you haven't seen because he passed away a few years ago. And now you have this back again and you just come to the point of being like kind of okay with his, because he didn't leave you in a good place. That's, that's obviously, so you like, could be reopening wounds that you don't want to think about. So absolutely, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, it does. I have this like, I have to read it. I have to read it because somebody said like, you don't have to read it. Like maybe you just don't read it. I'm like, no, I have to read it. So I'm just waiting for the time when I just am worried it's going to really like the next 2 weeks are going to be ruined or something. Like I'm not going to be able to work or I don't know. And again, it could just be like legal documents. Who knows?
I
I almost got
understand
you
that.
to read it. I was like, you open it and you tell me what it is, and then I can prepare.
I can do that for you.
We'll see. We'll see. It's sitting there taunting me. And I did go home. I went home to see my mom last weekend. And every time I go home, that's pretty, like, the memories are just everywhere. And then I've never been to visit his grave. And every time I kind of drive by it, that always gets me. That's a rough time. But again, maybe one day I'll visit it. But all of this to say, I am someone, as you know, who loves anniversaries and traditions and marking occasions, no matter how sad they might be. So I am going to talk about the sad murder dad trope. And I like to think my dad, who did love Star Wars and Darth Vader and movies in general, would at least get a kick out of it. So this has also been on my mind because I very excitedly showed you, I sent you pictures. I finally got I donated to AO3, which is the big nonprofit fan fiction website. And I finally they sent this deck of cards as a thank you to everyone who donated. And each of the cards has a trope, a fan fiction tag on it. And they're so cool, and I love them, and I'm going to show them to you next time we hang out, like everyone. Yes. But sad murder dad was not in there.
Oh, no. Well, yeah, I did get these pictures. I was very confused. I'm like, what am I looking at? Explain. Because I didn't know what was happening. And then, of course, you're like, this is what I was like, oh, okay. Very exciting. And I'm really excited to see them all.
You sent a very confused text, that's for sure. Because I sent like 10 pictures because that's the limit on my phone. I can only send 10. Or I would have sent you like 20.
It was. We just kept popping up. So I was like, what's happening? I think that was what's happening right now was my comment resonant.
Yes. Yes. They also didn't have a cinnamon roll trope, but they had a lot of my favorite tags. But if you don't know what the sad murder dad trope is, it's essentially exactly what it sounds like. It is a father figure who uses violence and murder in the name of their child and is very sad about it. Not about the murder, but it's just sad. Just a sad character. And Darth Vader is the first time I ever saw that tag. And he is frequently displayed that way. He's frequently, and I mean, this is, I would say, accurate as his character. He's very possessive of Luke because he doesn't know Leia is his child when we see him. Very possessive. So, like, he can hurt Luke, but no one else can hurt Luke. And he will, like, kill anyone, including the Emperor, for Luke. There's a lot of violence in his name that Luke doesn't want. But he's also very sad as a character. A lot of the introspections I've read, very sad because he missed out on Luke's life. Luke doesn't want to be with him after he makes the announcement, the revelation, I am your father. And it is a really interesting trope. And it's one I feel like now that I have that name for it, which is kind of a funny, like, fan fiction name for it. I see it all the time. And we have talked about it before. We talked about it in our survival video game series. Like, anytime we bring up The Last of Us, because Joel, I would say, is a sad murder dad. And that weekend where we did Star Wars and Last of Us for my birthday, you even joked it could be like sad murder dad weekend.
Yes. I was trying to find the perfect name, but alas, we did not stick to that. I think we said Sad Soup Day or something like that.
Sad Soup Weekend, I think it was. And it was great.
The soup was not sad, though, people.
No, but I did cry. I remember you brought out that piece of pie, and I was crying. And I was like, no, this is perfect. This is exactly what I wanted. I did. I did. So thank you. So as you know, I also love the cinnamon roll tag. That's my favorite. Which is just somebody who's like a sweetheart, like the most genuine, sincere sweetheart. And Luke is often portrayed that way. Not always, but often. So if you get like the sad murder dad and then the cinnamon roll, I think like the dichotomy there is very interesting because you've got somebody like Luke who is like so sweet, and then Vader who's like literally kind of this hulking monster who's killing everybody, and yet they're related. But I think like these are heightened fan fiction terms, but again, I think this is the same thing that we see all the time where there is a usually cut off, emotionally constipated man who lost something, someone, usually his wife and or daughter or child, goes down a dark spiral, cuts off from everybody, becomes violent, becomes cold, meets a child or somebody, usually a young girl, but in this case, no. But like Joel with Ellie, where you meet a young girl who's like the ultimate innocence. I wouldn't call her quite a cinnamon roll, but it's like that same idea of that foil against each other. And then the sad murder dad in question slowly like learns to feel again. Yeah. And then but in doing so does it in a very violent and very like toxic masculinity way of killing everybody.
Everybody.
Yeah. And so I do think when I think about The Last of Us, and I know I've talked about this ad nauseum, and I probably will forever, like I feel like people, I guess I have this question that I feel like I know the answer to, but is why are we so willing to excuse violence and bad behavior for fathers in particular? Well, while mothers are women who engage in this behavior are evil or bad or failures. And we've got a pretty good episode, I think, coming up where we're going to talk about some of this stuff soon about why we treat mothers that way.
Mm-hmm.
But fathers were like, oh, but he's so sweet. He's trying. He cares so much. He'll kill all those people. Isn't that good? Like, is it? It's like showing you care through violence. That's not the person the cinnamon roll in question doesn't want. In fact, really, really doesn't want. But you're doing it in their name. And it's supposed to be proof of how much you care, because I think we just value so much masculine behavior more. It's also more dramatic. Like, I'll give you that. But it's not. It is certainly more, I would say, a masculine realm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then this is a bigger issue, perhaps, than we're going to get into too in depth in this one. But it is something I think about, too, where I can't help but sort of psychoanalyze writers sometimes. And it seems like we have a whole generation of writers who, I could be wrong, I don't know their lives, but maybe had a father who wasn't there that much, or like they felt like as a kid they had to do something to keep them around, or were just closed off. Again, I could be totally wrong, but it's just like we see these stories a lot. Maybe they feel that way as fathers themselves. They feel like they're failing. They're way at their job all the time, writing these things. I don't know, but it's just sort of like I see a lot of male writers continually writing these things.
Right.
And I'm just kind of curious.
Curious, that's why. Why?
Yes. Why indeed? Why indeed? I read a funny article about it in Star Wars, and they were like, why? Because, like the Mandalorian and Grogu is the same, essentially. Like, why do we keep seeing this dynamic of sort of a like closed off, cold, violent man who's honestly not very good at the job? I love Darth Vader.
Mad at you.
No, I love him. I love Darth Vader, but he's also not very good at his job. Like, he's had a lot of screw ups in his day.
Sure has.
Sure has. And I was telling my friend the other day, that's one of my favorite parts of the end of Return of the Jedi is because he kind of failed as a Sith. And Luke kind of failed as a Jedi, and they chose each other in the end. But, like failure, it makes a character interesting. But I'm just saying, like, this writer also made the point of it's intriguing that we're seeing this play out many times in this universe. I'm like, it is indeed intriguing. You are right.
You are correct.
You are correct. As much as I have been complaining about it, and we're big proponents of being cognizant of your media and the messages you send, I do love the trope on fan fiction. Usually on fan fiction, it's less violent. Usually, not always, but usually it's more like they're very, very, Darth Vader's very, very sad. It's like, oh man, my son don't like me.
Well, I mean, I don't know because I haven't read the fan fiction, but he's sad because also he's mainly robot.
And it's painful.
And it's painful.
Yes. He's got a lot of reasons to be sad. I'm not going to take that away from him at all.
Part of that is his own doing.
Yes. Also true. Again, I just feel like we're so much more ready to forgive these male characters than we are women characters. And just like Reva in recent Obi-Wan, I remember I paused. I was like, I already have it ready, but I want to wait because I think there's going to be a reaction to the final episode, and I want to see if I'm right. And what I thought was going to happen was people were going to, how to say this without spoiling, they were going to look for a reason for her to die no matter what. Like they wanted her to die no matter what. Whereas I feel like with Darth Vader, people would be more like trying to find a way where he could live. And we've talked about that too, where like a lot of these sad murder dads never actually have to do the work of the redemption part. They just sort of die.
They just die.
Yeah. And then they don't have to deal with all the fallout. Like, I think that's still a powerful story of, oh yeah, forgiveness, whatever. I'm making it sound really trite, but I do think it's a powerful story. But ultimately, you died before you had to deal with all of the fallout.
The reality of it.
So yeah, those are just my thoughts on this trope that I frequently run across in fan fiction. And I do think it's very interesting because I think it's everywhere. I think it's very popular in pop culture. I even saw it kind of in The Boys, which I just watched. I was like, there it is. There it is. It shows up in quite a few different ways, perhaps.
It really does. The Boys is a whole different commentary because the first couple of seasons were about mommy issues, and now it's gone on to daddy issues. So
it's true.
It's a wide spectrum.
It's a wide spectrum. Well, perhaps we'll return, and we definitely do have something coming up that we're excited to talk about with the depiction of mothers in media, in recent media, perhaps.
In recent media.
Yeah. So we're excited about that. And always excited to talk about these topics. So thank you and cheers.
Cheers to sad murder dads.
Cheers to sad murder dads. Cheers to you sad murder dads everywhere. Oh, gosh.
If you're around, I guess. Don't murder people.
No, please stop. And cheers to you for listening. As always, if there's a topic you would like for us to cover, please let us know. You can email us at stuffmediamomstuff@iheartmedia.com. You can find us on Twitter at momstuffpodcast or on Instagram at Stuff I've Never Told You. Thanks as always to our super producer, Christina.
Thank you.
And thanks to you for listening. Stuff I've Never Told You is a production of iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.